NBA mailbag coming your way, where I take all of your questions live here on the show. And if you want your questions answered on a future mailbag, make sure you subscribe. We're pushing out free daily videos covering the latest NFL news and rumors, college football news and rumors, and of course the NBA as well. We just surpassed 272,000 subscribers. Nobody's doing what we're doing here at Chat Sports. Be a part of the family by hitting that red subscribe button down below, or in a separate browser, go to youtube.com/chatsportstv. First question coming up in this mailbag from Chris Boulder. LeBron easily has 4 more years of dominance left in the tank. With the way that LeBron James has been playing the last couple of weeks, I think it's easy to see why you would believe that. He's been playing truly an elite brand of basketball. Has it resulted in a lot of wins for the Los Angeles Lakers, which is of course a problem. Now I think moving forward for LeBron, he needs to be surrounded with a legitimate supporting cast. He is capable of carrying the team night in and night out because he still is a top 5 player in the NBA. But you can't count on him, nor do you want to count on him to fully exhaust himself on a nightly basis, because you want him to be able to maintain some of that energy for a playoff run. So I just need to see the Lakers support him with better weapons. And one of the big problems is for Los Angeles right now, Anthony Davis, way too brittle, going to be out for a little while because of another knee injury. Next question coming in from Tom Downey's burner account. What do the Cavs do with Collin Sexton? So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to look this up really quickly on the fly. I think he's in the final year of his rookie contract. So I don't think the Cavaliers are going to re-sign him. There were some concerns and some rumors about the Cavs not wanting to extend him either way. So when I look at his contract, he does have a qualifying offer next year. So under contract this year, $6.3 million, and that qualifying offer next year for $8.5 million. I think they look to trade him because I think there are so many NBA point guard needy teams across the association that could need him. They look at his upside and they're like, hey, this guy's a pretty dynamic playmaker. And the Cavaliers, I don't think, need him next to Darius Garland, who, in my opinion, has been one of the best point guards, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA this year. Colin Reed, $2 Super Chat. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Should Lu Dort be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player? Lu Dort is really good, and nobody, and I mean nobody, saw this coming for Lu Dort. Fantastic defensive player who kind of burst onto the scene in the NBA bubble a couple of years ago. Most Improved Player, he certainly deserves to be mentioned in that conversation. Defensive Player of the Year, that's a really, really tough race. But either way, Lu Dort has been very, very good. Credit to him for getting in the lab and improving his game. 6 of 1, too early MVP shortlist. In no particular order right now, as we sit here in late December, I think the top candidates, again, no particular order, so don't bash me in the comments section, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, the Joker, DeMar DeRozan, and then after that grouping, kind of everybody else. Maybe Chris Paul's in that upper echelon as well, because the Phoenix Suns have the #1 team and #1 record in the NBA. But that conversation going to be very intriguing as the NBA season progresses. Tyson Person, what should the Lake Show do to fix their team? Ideally, you trade away Russell Westbrook because it's become clear that he is not a fit on this team. And that trade has proven to be disastrous. They should have traded for Buddy Hield. I said it the day of when it looked like that was going to be the move. And then the last second, Washington swoops in and they trade away Russ. And they get back a nice little package that's helped the Washington Wizards play pretty good basketball. Ideally, you trade Russ. Is that realistic? I'm not sure because his contract is so inflated, and it's one of the worst in the NBA considering how high it is, his age, and his varying production because he's maddeningly inconsistent. Other than that, if you traded for a Miles Turner, I think that'd be a good move. If you traded for another good big man out there, I think that could help the Lakers as well. Maybe you trade for, another player like Jackson Hayes, who might be a little bit more realistic than Miles Turner. There's no question, though, they need some roster upgrades. So I was asked this question a little bit ago about LeBron James being in his prime. It's going to last a couple of more years. I want you to chime in and let me know if you think LBJ is past his prime. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below. Better Bob, BB, what do the Mavs need to do to not waste Luka's prime? They are in a precarious spot right now because the Mavericks aren't a good team. They signed and brought in and have a bunch of players on this roster who are supposed to be much better three-point shooters. They haven't been good this year. And the Mavs are one of the worst three-point shooting teams. So ideally, you surround Luka Doncic with three-point weapons, and that was the direction for the franchise this past offseason. Didn't work out well. Now, can those shooting percentages turn around? Potentially. Luka Doncic himself has to get in much better shape because he even admitted not in good shape. Took some time off after the Olympics, and that Olympic run with Team Slovenia, allowing them to medal for the first time in that country's history, crazy. But the Mavs don't have a lot of trade assets, which is a problem. Ideally, you trade away Kristaps Porzingis, who I think to me is a stiff, but you don't have a lot of options, and that makes the future of Luka Doncic somewhat interesting. Albern Reed. Will Boston be a contender this year? We keep waiting for it to happen, and it continues to not happen. This is a basketball team that's been floating around 500 for the last 2 years. That's a pretty long sample size, Albern. And I have some concerns about that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum pairing. They haven't been good, or at least elite, like a lot of people had expected. So can they be a contender? Maybe. I mean, if they get into the playoffs, a JT 1-2 punch, is very, very dangerous. But you don't have a true point guard. I don't know about their front court situation. It's really just okay. And on that roster, outside of Tatum and Brown, who do you have who you can really say is a legit player? The Manimal, what's your opinion on the Lakers? Do they have the assets to trade for Jerami Grant or Ben Simmons? I'd say Jerami Grant a little bit more realistic because, one, he's not as expensive, and two, I don't think Daryl Morey has his asking price at the level of Jerami Grant. It's much higher than that. And Jerami Grant on the books for around $20 million. So I actually think that's somewhat realistic. Now, who do you trade away? You package away Talen Horton-Tucker, who's making around $10 million this year. Kendrick Nunn, who's making around $5 million. That's 15 right there. And maybe another player, or maybe you include a 3-team deal as well. Does that move the needle all that much? Maybe it makes your roster a little bit more well-rounded and certainly better defensively. Some assets right there. Frankie Gustavo, who's been the best rookie this year? That's a really good question. Cade Cunningham got off to a really bad start. He's been really good the last 18 games, averaging around 16.5 points per game. I'd say it's probably between Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, who's an athletic freak, and his development is ridiculous. But the guy we really have to talk about, who I'm really excited to talk about in the future years and months because he continues to progress, Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers. This guy has a little bit of Giannis to him. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a Giannis player, but in terms of being an athletic freak, him just being so long, guarding multiple positions, and the development that I think we're going to see transpire, man, he has the potential to potentially be, and I said this on NBA Draft Night, the best prospect in the 2021 NBA Draft class. Good question cooked up by producer Jeremy Chuggs. Better young core right now. And Tom Downey's burner account, going to love this. Cleveland Cavaliers or the Memphis Grizzlies? Jeremy asked me this, and I'm like, okay, who's it going to be? Because the Grizzlies have the marquee superstar player in John Morant, good surrounding pieces, Dillon Brooks, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, but the Cavaliers are deep. Really good question. That's why we cook them up for you here at Chat Sports. Today's mailbag presented to you by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Now, I wouldn't call myself a gambling degenerate, but I do love to gamble on football, on the NBA. Chat Sports holiday party went to the biggest casino in the world in Oklahoma from our Chat Sports studios in Dallas, Texas, the WinStar. We had a blast. If you want to bet like me and make some cheddar like me, you can do so thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head to chatsports.com/bet. That's that link down below. Enter the promo code CHAT125, and you get a 125% deposit bonus. $5 super from Jamie. Thank you so much for watching the show and supporting us. See that you said that Grant is the affordable player in the trade market. How do you build a trade for Dallas, preferably keeping Brunson? That's the problem with the Mavericks, Jamie. They don't have a lot of trade assets. Like, in a perfect world, you can trade away Kristaps Porzingis, but nobody wants that contract for the player that he currently is and has been over the last couple of years. Dorian Finney-Smith, you going to trade him away? Jalen Brunson is one of their best trade assets, but that's a player as a backup, upper echelon backup point guard I'd really like to keep. And he's having a career year this year. Now, do you want to trade him away for a player like Jerami Grant? How much do you think that helps you get better as a basketball team? I'm not sure it really moves the needle all that much. That's the predicament that the Dallas Mavericks are in right now. Shay, last question of this mailbag. Do you think Harrison Barnes can help the Chicago Bulls if he is brought out? So Jerami Grant has been rumored to the Chicago Bulls a little bit. Harrison Barnes would be a cool name as well. Without Patrick Williams, that gives them a hit defensively because he is an excellent defensive player, out for the remainder of the year. Lower body injury for him, I believe. And I love that draft pick too, by the way, of him getting out of Florida State. But Harrison Barnes, Jerami Grant could help make the Bulls interesting. But those guys are kind of at a position of strength for the Bulls at that wing spot. Where I worry about the Bulls is this, right? It's that front court spot. They lost back-to-back games to the Philadelphia 76ers because Joel Embiid was in his straight-up bag, man. And Vucevic cannot defend Joel. So over the course of a playoff series, would they be able to stick with a player like that? That could potentially be a problem.